Today we're working on this F550 here. We're pulling this engine out to give it a reseal because it is a very, very leaky engine. It's leaking from pretty much every orifice on the engine it can leak from. We're going to pull this 6.7 out and completely reseal this. We're going to fix a few other things along the way. Here you can see the engine set up on our Norco engine stand. This is specifically made for the powerstroke engine. The other voice you'll hear today here with me is Jake. This is the first time we're doing a voiceover of a video. We're gonna see how this goes here. But you see we're installing the valve covers here. We missed some footage on getting these valve covers cleaned up. Got some brand new injector grommets in it because of course they were leaking. On to our rear cover, getting that thing ready to go is Trey. He's putting a rear cover gasket in it, and you can see my nappy-haired self cleaning the engine block. So hammer to install it with, got to use that. That's pretty mandatory, wouldn't you say, Jay?
Yeah.
Rear covers, rear main seals really aren't that notorious for leaking on the 6.7, but we already got this one out, so we are going to reseal it up.
Only with age.
Only with age, yeah. Only with age. Installing that rear main seal, we're going to give it a little bit of lubrication, even though the book tells us not to. A little lubrication can't help, but you'll see me installing this here with the special tool. This is a Rotunda special tool that's specifically made to install that 6.7 rear main seal.
Expensive for no reason.
What you just seen go on there is the tone wheel. That is a very, very important thing not to forget. Know a few people that have forgot to put those in. Usually the engine will not run without the crank tone wheel in. But you can see our lovely torque method there for the flex plate. And here's a little bit of a tricky part. We make it look real easy, but we're installing the front cover. And it's tricky because you have to line up the oil pump at the same time. You see my installation tool, my installation method here. So what do you think about the 6.7 powerstroke, Jake?
There's a reason it's been produced longer than any other powerstroke.
You can see me scratching my head a little bit trying to figure out what bolts go where. I have a method whenever I do things. I like all my bolts to be in one pile so I don't have to go looking in multiple piles, but that creates an issue when you do something probably this big because the bolt pile gets a little overwhelming sometimes. So something super common on the 6.7 powerstroke with a water pump. We're installing a brand new one because if the old one comes off, I'm not putting it back on ever. We're going to put a new one on it. We got to.
Yeah, they could have made that a lot more simple.
The water pump? Yeah, it didn't have to be that big. It definitely could have been a
lot. Put a battery harness over it.
Right. Well, I mean, they could have had 4 bolts in the center and made the channel the front cover instead of having a 4-foot water pump. It just don't make a lot of sense.
Or you could just put the battery harness over the shroud like they did the last 30 years.
See here on the front, we have our special service tool. This is for the front crank seal, also from Rotunda. We'll try to link some up down below. I'm not sure who all makes them. Another common place for the 6.7 to leak is this vacuum pump. On the 11 to 16 models, for some reason only, they would back the bolts out of it and cause a real bad oil leak. Here you can see me using my plastic razor blade scraper like Ford says, and here we're installing the correct silicone. It's not TA357 because that's what Ford tells you to use, and it doesn't really seal near as good as this stuff. Diesel gray, that's what the old guy told me when I started. Diesel gray if you want it to last and not leak anymore. So we put TA31, which is about equivalent to the old school diesel gray. Nice, nice. Maybe that oil pan won't leak again for a while.
Much easier on a stand.
Definitely the most common place for them to leak oil is this upper pan. You can see why it's huge, and if you really looked at the sealing surfaces on it, you would notice how small a surface they have for the silicone to actually stick to. And diesel engines, if you didn't know it, they have a lot more compression than gasoline engines, so they're usually naturally going to have more blow-by over time. So silicone, small surface combined with blow-by is really probably a lot of the reason why that oil pan leaks so bad. Here we're installing the oil cooler. This 6.7 has a oil to water cooler that's mounted on the side of the upper oil pan. Here's that battery harness Jake was referencing earlier. This thing is like so in the way. You'll see here in just a second when he routes it up. Yeah, right there around the water pump. When the engine is in the cab and you're leaned over the radiator, it is a nightmare trying to fight those little bolts out of there. So definitely got to resell these injectors. I'd love to put some new ones in there, but unfortunately they are like $400-something a piece. So we're going to give them the old reseal here with some new O-rings, some new copper washers, and hopefully they'll last another 200,000 miles maybe. How often do you think Trey keeps these injectors like I set them out of the truck?
Probably not.
Oh, you think he keeps them in line? I don't know. We hadn't had any check engine lights. I don't know. Trey is our little worker bee. He'll pull so many things off just because it looked like it was in his way, and then he'll look at me and say, I did what you told me to do. And I can't exactly argue with him in most cases. So that is Trey. He gets a lot done, but you got to watch him. You got to watch him. You got to be specific. He will get you. We've had problems with injector bolts before. I don't know if we got a wrong torque method here. We've had a couple injectors blow out over the years. I will say I never actually installed an injector bolt that come out. That was Jake and Trey. It wasn't me.
The one that I did, the truck was making 40,000 PSI.
True. It had other issues. I'll give you that. But not a good thing. Had to extract a couple broken bolts out of the cylinder head. You see, we always usually get a crowd. I usually get distracted real easily. See Trey working, me not. It's generally how it goes. What in the hell am I doing? Good thing we cut the audio.
Yeah.
No telling what that conversation could be about.
Not with Austin.
The other guy there is Austin. He is a interesting character. I'll leave it at that.
Yeah.
Fuel rails going on. Got the old fuel rails. I'd love to put a new fuel system in here, but they're expensive, so we got to reuse stuff. See, you got the wires routed on the wrong side. I'll probably fix that later. We do that every time, it seems like. Route the wires on the wrong side of the high pressure fuel lines.
On purpose.
Yeah. Look at him. Got the Milwaukee wrench. He said my gear wrench didn't grab it good enough, man. Oh, yeah. Fuel return line, that thing can be really, really tricky. Routing the harness around. See, there's really not a lot to this engine when you get, all the crap they stack on top of the engine out of the way. You can get stuff a lot easier. EGR cooler going on. Wish it wasn't, but hey, some people like to abide by the law. EPA and stuff, Those little bolts are bad about breaking. We're getting this thing wrapped up here. We're actually getting pretty close. We can install the turbo in the engine because I use the turbo where the turbo mounts to the block. I have an adapter plate that goes there that I rig up to a chain, hook the forklift on. See, brand new crankcase filter.
Probably the most important thing you can do.
The most important thing we did on the whole truck. Now we're getting this thing rigged up again. I think you've seen this footage a little bit earlier. I had to double it up, make the video a little longer for them ads. So here we go, off the ground. Got to disassemble this thing. Disassemble this thing. See, there's my handy friend Dalton coming to assist me.
Yeah. Handy.
All right. This is hands down the easiest way to install mate engines and transmissions together. If you do it in the frame, you're doing it the wrong way. This is so much easier. You don't have to fight around everything. I ain't saying it's the fastest way by any means, but it's definitely a easier way and an easier method to make sure you get everything installed correctly. That's why I'd rather just spend the extra time that it takes to do it this way, and I can ensure that everything's clean and sealed properly before it goes back together. Engine mounts. Got some little bitty bolts holding things on too. I think you'd have bigger bolts for a big old diesel engine, but I guess they hold. All right, we're off to the wonderful parking lot. See our slag rock parking lot here. We don't have enough room in the shop, so sometimes we have to just install these things outside of the shop. Watch them booger pickers, Trey. There we go. All right, this is the towing machine. Look at there. Pulling that thing up there. All right, couldn't get no more than that, so we're going to get the forklift. Yeah. Got to do some steering because, we don't have a steering wheel anymore. Yep. Coming right on in. And the cab is back on. It took a little bit longer than that cut you just seen to install the rest of the stuff back on, but we did get it all back on. So that is our 6.7 powerstroke Reseal. All right, that's going to wrap us up for this video. This voiceover has been brought to you by me and Jake. Hopefully the next time we're going to get Jake a little bit more involved in the actual voiceover part. Maybe. But that's pretty much going to wrap us up for this one. We appreciate you guys watching, and we will catch y'all in the next one.